Chapter 424 Sparing nothing for the rescue. When they appeared behind Yi Lin, all the Soul Engineers were stunned. How is this possible? Since when was the White Tiger Duke able to use instant teleportation? Furthermore, there isn't any known instant teleportation skill with that kind of range. Of course, instant teleportation couldn't teleport someone so far away, and neither did the White Tiger Duke possess such a skill. However, Huo Yue did. More accurately speaking, it was Shu Sanqi that possessed such a skill. Wang Qiu had once taken Huo Yue to the Great Stardow Forest to attain a strange soul skill. Huo Yue rarely used this soul skill. However, it was able to turn the tides every time it was used. This soul skill was called duplication. Before Huo Yue's spiritual cultivation reached such a high level, his duplication had limited effects. There were some powerful soul skills that he couldn't duplicate. However, his spiritual power was at the concrete material realm now. No matter how strong a martial soul was, he was able to duplicate all its soul skills. Of course, the strength of the soul skills he duplicated corresponded to his cultivation when he unleashed them. Before leaving Shrek City, he had found Shu Sanqi and duplicated Shu Sanqi's evolved fourth soul skill, Swanwu Displacement. From afar, his opponent or partner could be instantly shifted in front of him. It wasn't just a displacement, it was more like a summoning. The skill should have been called Swanwu Summoning instead. In fact, Huo Yue used two soul skills at once. His first soul skill was his instant teleportation, a skill from his soul bone. Instantly, he crossed the 50-meter gap between him and the Starsky Dillo and appeared behind him. He wasn't restricted by distance when he unleashed his soul skills. However, such a distance was undoubtedly more suitable for the White Tiger Duke to launch an attack. After he used his instant teleportation, he unleashed his Swanwu Summoning. Both he and Dai Hao unexpectedly appeared behind the Starsky Dillo. Purplish gold light flashed, and Huo Yue's linked third soul skill also took effect. He didn't open his Eye of Destiny earlier to control his aura, and right now, they didn't have much time left, so he used his normal spiritual shock. However, it was important to note that Huo Yue already had a 7-ring cultivation. Along with his immense spiritual power, his spiritual shock could even affect someone as strong as Yi Lin. However, Yi Lin demonstrated his strength as a class 9 soul engineer. When Huo Yue's spiritual shock was about to reach him, a black headband suddenly shone on his forehead. On this headband was a silvery white gem, which was crushed instantly. As he moved slightly, everything in front of him turned black. However, he wasn't greatly hurt by Huo Yue's spiritual shock. However, this momentary delay was still enough, because he was delayed just as Dai Hao was being teleported over. The White Tiger Duke was very experienced. While he was shocked by the fact that he was suddenly behind Yi Lin, he still hated the Starsky Dillo greatly. How would he show any mercy? Streaks of blinding white light instantly shone behind Yi Lin. It was the White Tiger Duke's 6th soul skill, White Tiger's Extermination. He unleashed it on the Starsky Dillo while he was in his martial soul true body. Yi Lin couldn't even turn around right now, but he still managed to smack his right hand against his chest, and something strange happened. Countless spots of golden light shone on his body. These golden lights were like stars in the night sky. When Dai Hao's attack landed on Yi Lin's body, these spots of lights immediately joined together and formed a web. This web of light blocked Dai Hao's attack. For Tidal Dillo, invincible barriers didn't have much effect anymore, because there was a limit to the class of an invincible barrier. The strongest invincible barrier that existed as of now was only class 7, and could only able to resist one strike from an assault type Tidal Dillo. For someone of Yi Lin's standards, it didn't offer much protection. The protective soul tool that Yi Lin owned and had just unleashed was called the Starsky barrier. It was his strongest defensive soul tool at class 9. There were no soul engineers that weren't concerned about their own defense. They knew about the gap between them and higher tier soul masters in terms of physical strength. When the White Tiger Duke's all-out attack collided with Yi Lin's Starsky barrier, Yi Lin exploited its momentum to unleash his soul thruster and widen the gap between him and Huo Yue and Dai Hao. However, he still groaned and spat out blood when he was struck. Huo Yue had a fantastic and rare opportunity in front of him. How could he possibly give it up? With the Starsky Dillo around, they practically had no chance to escape. When Yi Lin's Starsky barrier lit up, Huo Yue had already started making his move. His Eye of Destiny opened, and a strange halo instantly landed on the Starsky Dillo's body. The 6th soul ring of Huo Yue's spirit eyes shone. This rose gold soul ring was covered in a magical glow. He had unleashed one of the 2 soul skills of this soul ring that Wang Qiu had given him, spiritual reaving. Instantly, Yi Lin felt a little dizzy. The headband that he had specially created to resist spiritual type attacks didn't have any reaction. One of the 3 silvery white gems on his headband was already crushed, but the other 2 gems didn't react at this moment. An indescribable sense of crisis turned Yi Lin pale at this moment. His reaction was on point. The light from his flying type soul tool and soul thruster were instantly extinguished. He even gave up his control of the 2 Sun Moon Divine Needles in the air. His body immediately crashed toward the ground, as if he were in freefall. After Huo Yue unleashed his spiritual reaving, he followed it with an all-out strike of his spiritual shock. Boom, boom. The 2 remaining gems on Yi Lin's forehead instantly blew apart. His headband, which was roughly as strong as a class 8 soul tool, was completely destroyed at this moment. Not only that, but he also groaned as blood started flowing from his pores. After being struck by Huo Yue's spiritual reading, his defense against spiritual attacks became effectively useless. This was the most effective attack Huo Yue could use on powerful soul masters and soul engineers. Of course, the prerequisite had to be that his opponent wasn't prepared for it. Dai Hao wanted to chase Yi Lin, but he was immediately stopped by Huo Yue. Quick, rise into the sky and take control of his Sun Moon Divine Needles. Dai Hao immediately understood what he was trying to do. Following this, he felt a streak of spiritual power linking with him. Everything around him was presented mentally through Huo Yue's spiritual detection. Right now, almost all the White Tiger bodyguards had successfully escaped. The last wave of bodyguards was entering the 12 black doors right now. Under such circumstances, their escape plan would be perfect as long as the 2 of them were able to flee successfully. Under the guidance of Huo Yue's spiritual power, the 2 of them quickly rose into the sky. As the Starsky Dillo's spiritual seed had been hurt, and he was afraid that the White Tiger Duke would chase him, he was rapidly descending at this moment. It was too late for him to stop Huo Yue and Dai Hao. In addition, the rest of the soul engineers were still attacking in the direction Dai Hao was earlier. As they regained awareness, they only managed to relocate Dai Hao at this point. Everything happened too quickly. Seeing that Huo Yue and Dai Hao were rising into the sky, streaks of light shot towards the both of them. All the soul engineers believed that the 2 of them were trying to escape. The distorted rays flashed around Huo Yue and Dai Hao. Huo Yue used his spiritual interference domain. He had already demonstrated the strength of his spiritual interference domain earlier. Not even a Tidal Dillo could see through it. Suddenly, the rays weren't able to lock onto them and struck nothing. Area of effect attack. Yi Lin managed to stabilize his body at this point and flew up once again. Right now, he looked very pale, but he was also very angry. He had been subjected to a sneak attack. Not only was a class 8 soul tool destroyed, but he was also seriously hurt. At this moment, he was suffering from a spleen headache. If not for his class 8 headband, he would be half dead. He put on another soul tool that defended against spiritual power and flew up again. However, Huo Yue and Dai Hao had a much greater head start. As they flew at their quickest speed, they were already inching close to the 2 Sun Moon Divine Needles. Dai Hao had used a Sun Moon Divine Needle before. Naturally, he knew how to control it, and immediately used his soul and spiritual power to complete his connection to one of the 2 Sun Moon Divine Needles. Furthermore, the Sun Moon Divine Needle that he had used before was given to him by Huo Yue. While Huo Yue wasn't strong enough to use this class 9 soul tool in the past, he did research it before. Thus he wasn't unfamiliar with its controls. Either, the 2 of them quickly controlled the 2 Sun Moon Divine Needles. In addition, both these needles had been charged up by the Starsky Dillo earlier. Yi Lin, you can have a taste of the strength of your Sun Moon Divine Needles. 2. We shall blow you apart. Huo Yue shouted. Yi Lin almost wet his pants. He had invented these 2 Sun Moon Divine Needles and understood how powerful they were. His Starsky barrier could defend against other attacks, but he was bound to be evaporated from the face of the earth if the attacks of 2 Sun Moon Divine Needles hit him. Instantly, he descended again without any hesitation. At the same time, a class 7 invincible barrier also rose up, and streaks of defensive soul rays were continuously being unleashed. He only had one life. He wasn't going to gamble with it. Just as Huo Yue spoke, the 2 Sun Moon Divine Needles had already been unleashed. However, they weren't fired towards the Starsky Dillo. Dai Hao was startled while Huo Yue was speaking. This was because his Sun Moon Divine Needle was being aimed through Huo Yue's spiritual power, but the target wasn't Yi Lin. 2 streaks of gold and silver light formed 2 thin beams of light in the air. The most terrifying thing about a Sun Moon Divine Needle was that it could compress a huge amount of energy into a wisp. The destructive power of a single streak of of light unleashed by a Sun Moon Divine Needle was extremely terrifying. Dai Hao had resisted one strike today, and all his defensive soul tools were crushed. He was even badly scorched. Right now, the two Sun Moon Divine Needles were aimed at the other two Class 9 Soul Engineers. Huo Yuao had shouted very loudly before. Naturally, these two Class 9 Soul Engineers heard him. However, hearing him and seeing what was going on were two different things. From the looks of it, those two beams of light were about to shoot towards them. These two Class 9 Soul Engineers couldn't be bothered with their image anymore. Both of them screamed, and different colored protective barriers flashed wildly. It was more important for them to save their own lives, no matter the cost of the defensive soul tools they had to use. Two tremendous booms resonated across the sky. Two gold and silver suns seemed to have lit up the sky. Quickly, flee. Huo Yuao shouted at Dai Hao and quickly unleashed his imitation, which engulfed both of them. At the same time, they flew diagonally downward. However, they went flying towards the 12 black doors. While Huo Yuao's imitation could conceal them, they would still be revealed if they were struck by an area of effect attack. Huo Yuao couldn't possibly take any risks right now. The two Soul Engineer legions had already chased after them, and all the Soul Engineers could naturally tell what was happening. They also possessed a wealth of experience in instantly unleashed area of effect attacks using their soul tools. The area that they covered included the route that Huo Yuao and Dai Hao had to take to reach the 12 black doors. If Huo Yuao's earlier choice had been wrong, they wouldn't have been able to escape in the face of this barrage of attacks. Dai Hao's back broke out in a cold sweat as he watched the patches of light descend from the sky. Right now, he and Huo Yuao were flying towards the two Soul Engineer legions, aiming for the space beneath them. At times, the most dangerous place was the safest place. The carpet attacks that they unleashed would certainly not target the region they were in. Yi Yilin had risen into the sky again, and the other two Class 9 Soul Engineers were well prepared. Before they entered the Star Luo Empire this time, they had made rich preparations, and thus managed to preserve their lives even when facing attacks from the two Sun Moon Divine Needles. What left Yi Yilin pale was that Huo Yuao didn't just tap into the power of his Sun Moon Divine Needles, but also disappeared with them as he and Dai Hao vanished. Those were Class 9 Soul tools. Their value couldn't be measured in terms of money. Furthermore, there were Sun Moon Divine Needles that possessed immense destructive strength. He only had one Sun Moon Divine Needle left with him now. The 12 black doors quickly shut after the last White Tiger bodyguard entered. All the Soul Engineers were furious and charged towards those 12 black doors after they failed to locate Huo Yuao and Dai Hao. However, it was a pity that these doors that came from Huo Yuao's spectral demiplane weren't real entities. Soul rays and cannon shells were unable to enter through or damage the doors. Only living creatures and specters were able to cross through them. By the time the Soul Engineers reached the doors, they had already shut and disappeared. Huo Yuao had already fled far away, along with Dai Hao. It was already too late for the two Soul Engineer legions to use their thermal detectors and aerial surveillance soul tools. Thermal detectors could only operate within a limited range. It was impossible for them to locate Huo Yuao and Dai Hao anymore. Huo Yuao was panting heavily now. While he had only fought for a short time earlier, he had put everything he had into that fight. Not only were his soul and spiritual power greatly drained, but his energy was also expended. Both he and Dai Hao had faced many powerful Soul Engineers earlier. If they had made even one mistake, they would have died. Dai Hao put the Sun Moon Divine Needle away in his storage-type soul tool and said sincerely, "Thanks, you've saved me once again." He had already resigned himself to the fact that he was going to die today, but hadn't expected this miraculous person to appear and save not just his subordinates, but himself as well. He knew how dangerous things had been earlier. Right now, his back was still covered in cold sweat. However, this person in front of him didn't care about anything else and saved him. In addition, this person also demonstrated all sorts of strange abilities. It seemed like he would appear every time he was in danger. Who exactly was he? Huo Yuao glanced at Dai Hao, and a complicated look flashed across his eyes. He only shook his head and didn't say anything else. The two of them flew close to 50 kilometers before Huo Yuao led Dai Hao to a remote area. White Tiger Duke, I'll only be with you until here. Your White Tiger bodyguards have been sent into another dimension. I'll lead them out now. Quickly, take them and leave. As he spoke, Huo Yuao recited a few incantations and a black door opened. There was only one door this time. Opening 12 doors at once was extremely draining on his soul power. If not for the fact that he wanted the White Tiger bodyguards to escape as quickly as possible earlier, he wouldn't have opened so many doors. Huo Yuao had thought out his plan to save the White Tiger Duke in a very short period of time. First, he unleashed his spectral doors at a distant location before making them invisible in the air. At the same time, he dispelled all the undead at the entrances of his spectral doors as he entered his spectral demiplane. They wouldn't get close to the entrances for a while. In this way, the White Tiger bodyguards wouldn't easily uncover the secret of his demiplane. Next, he returned to the battlefield and told the White Tiger bodyguards that they could make their move. After that, he rose into the sky. When he came up with this plan, Huo Yuao had devised it according to the orders that the White Tiger Duke gave. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been so many coincidences. Following this, he had unleashed all the abilities of his spirit eyes to their fullest. When he devised his plan, Huo Yuao had clearly delegated himself a role. His role was to pester, and not to attack or fight. Given his individual strength, it was impossible for him to resist so many Soul Engineers. Fighting was a surefire way to die. He only had a chance by using his spiritual type soul skills to pester his opponents. Indeed, they were very effective on the battlefield. He eventually completed his rescue mission, an almost impossible task. He had performed a miracle. Whether it was the White Tiger Duke or the Starsky Dorlo, they still weren't able to figure out his true identity. The White Tiger Duke started tearing up when he saw his White Tiger bodyguards streaming out from the black door. If not for this person in front of him, all of his brothers would have died on the battlefield. Benefactor, can you let us see your true appearance? You've saved us twice. I have to repay these two favors. In the future, I'll help you fulfill any requests you have unless they betray my own principles and beliefs. Dai Hao would never say something like this if Huo Yuao had only saved him. However, Huo Yuao had saved the lives of both him and his bodyguards on two different occasions. Given what he had done, Dai Hao couldn't help but make this heavy promise. Huo Yuao was slightly stunned and replied, "All right, remember what you've said today. As for my appearance, I won't reveal it. You'll get to see it one day." Dai Hao was stunned for a moment. He noticed the slight surprise in Huo Yuao's tone of voice. Don't tell me I know this man. However, he had no impression of this man, whether it was in terms of his voice or his figure. Soon, the 1300 plus White Tiger bodyguards had walked out of the spectral door and gathered around Dai Hao. Huo Yuao nodded at Dai Hao and said, "It's not safe here. Those Soul Engineers can fly. I estimate that they'll be searching this place soon. Quickly, retreat and mount your defenses. Benefactor, why don't you follow us back to our camp? Given your abilities." Huo Yuao interrupted him by rising up and flying into the distance. In the blink of an eye, he had assimilated with the darkness and disappeared. The White Tiger bodyguards all knelt as they watched as Huo Yuao leave. He was their benefactor. Although the White Tiger Duke didn't kneel, there was a strong look of gratitude in his eyes. Huo Yuao's body shook a little after flying to a point where the White Tiger Duke and the rest couldn't see him anymore. Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood onto the black scarf he had used to mask his face. His butterfly wings opened up, and he managed to stabilize himself. Huo Yuao's face was very pale as he pulled the black scarf down. There was a lost look in his eyes, and he muttered, "Why? Why did I risk everything to save him? Aren't I supposed to hate him? However, I feel so relieved after saving him. This is why dawn." The sun slowly rose. A bright sunrise was an indication that the weather would be good, and good weather always lifted one's spirits. However, today was an exception. Even though the weather was good, those from the Star Luo Empire weren't in a good mood. The defense of their western border had broken down, and news of this had quickly spread through various channels to the entire continent. The imperial family of the Star Luo Empire was shocked. As they dispatched their military, they requested aid from the Doling and Heavenly Soul Empires. No one had expected the Sun Moon Empire to make a move so quickly, and even come in such a ferocious manner. All three empires had expected the Sun Moon Empire's fighting strength to be great. However, they found out that their estimations were still too low when this terrifying crisis occurred. The Sun Moon Empire was much scarier than they had expected. The influence of soul tools on war had also exceeded their expectations. A few Soul Engineer legions teamed up together to launch a lightning assault, and completely overwhelmed the Star Luo Empire's northwestern field army. Disregarding regarding the fact they had Class 9 stationary Soul Cannon shells to open the way for them, they still managed to demonstrate the strength of Soul Engineer legions. Suddenly, the entire continent was in an uproar. The Sun Moon Empire didn't launch any attacks on the neighboring Heavenly Soul Empire but deployed several Soul Engineer legions at the border. After learning that the Sun Moon Empire had attacked the Star Luo Empire, the Heavenly Soul Empire deployed the Body Sect to lead a bunch of strong Soul Masters to launch a surprise attack the next day. However, they were intercepted by the Holy Ghost Church. Given the number of strong evil Soul Masters in the Holy Ghost Church, as well as the strength of their evil abilities, the Body Sect was forced to return without making any advances. If they didn't retreat, they might have been encircled by Soul Engineer legions, which would have made it difficult for them to flee. On the other side, at the Star Luo Empire's western border, the Sun Moon Empire's military had already made their way into the Star Luo Empire's territories through the huge gap they had made. However, they didn't rush to attack, but quickly took control of several forts that had belonged to the Northwestern Field Army at the border. They consolidated their gains and strength at the border. Even so, everyone knew that they weren't going to stop attacking. Ever since the Sun Moon Empire's Crown Prince Shu Tianran had ascended the throne, the three other empires on the continent knew that this war was unavoidable. However, there had been a huge explosion in the Sun Moon Empire's Radiant City, causing the empire to suffer huge losses. The hostages that they had held captive were also freed. In everyone's opinion, the Sun Moon Empire should be laying low for some time. However, they made their move before half a year was up. They were irresistible. A storm was brewing over the continent, and a war of survival and destruction was about to begin. However, Hua Yua still returned to Imperial Radiant City that night. When he returned, it was almost midnight. However, Dai Luolai and Xu Yan were still waiting for him. Although they didn't know what Hua Yua's exact cultivation was, they knew that his abilities should be quite good, given that he could completely suppress them. Since he was able to sneak out to explore, he should be able to bring back some news. Right now, the Star Luo Empire's military had sealed all information very tightly, so there wasn't much news leaking out. Tang Dong, how is it? Dai Luolai quickly went up and asked Hua Yuao after seeing him sneak in through a window and change into his military uniform. Hua Yuao replied, the defense of the front line has indeed fallen. However, our troops seem to have successfully retreated. From afar, I saw that the White Tiger Duke's flag has already been withdrawn. He should be fine. He naturally wasn't going to tell Dai Luolai everything. It would be contradictory to his plan. After hearing that the White Tiger Duke was fine, Dai Luolai heaved a sigh of relief. It's great that my father is fine. Do you know where he retreated to? Hua Yuao shook his head and said, I'm not sure, but I'm certain he's within our territories. As for which city he retreated to, I'm not sure. Don't harbor any thoughts of finding him now. To you, the thing you should be focused on is to perform well in the defense of Imperial Radiant City. Once our enemies arrive, we'll go all out to kill them. The White Tiger Duke can't take care of you right now. After Hua Yuao pinpointed what he wanted to do, Dai Luolai turned red and nodded. He replied, all right, I'll listen to you. Xu Yan, who had been standing to one side without making a sound, suddenly stood up and said, since the White Tiger Duke is fine, I'm relieved too. I'll go and find some more news. The two of you can rest first. After she finished speaking, she walked out. Hua Yuao directly sat cross-legged on his bed and entered deep meditation. To him, it had been an exciting night. The room they were in right now had been allocated to them by Xu Yan. Xu Yan lived right beside them. The two of them had a room all to themselves. Even though they were bodyguards, this was already very good treatment. When Hua Yuao woke from his deep meditation, it was already the evening of the second day. Dai Luolai wasn't in the room. After he grabbed a bite to eat, he returned to his bed and sat down. While it was a close shave yesterday, he managed to gain a new understanding of the control of his spiritual power. After getting his martial soul true body, unleashing his soul skills through it had provided him with valuable experience. Hua Yuao discovered that he couldn't use his avatar to directly unleash the powerful soul skills he had, given his cultivation. However, it was much easier for him to use some auxiliary type soul skills. For example, he could use his imitation, spiritual interference domain, and mass enfeeblement. As his cultivation increased, his spiritual power gave him abilities that were similar to his avatar. Although his avatar didn't possess the abilities of his actual body, the greatest benefit to having an avatar was that it could be forsaken at any time. This was the greatest enhancement in terms of his spiritual cultivation. It was a pity that he wasn't able to divide his attention, given how great his spiritual power was. He couldn't control both sides perfectly at the same time. This was the next step he was trying to achieve. Ever since he had crossed rank 70, his soul power had improved at a faster rate. Even though he didn't have the Hadon power anymore, he was still likely to become an 8-ring soul duo within 5 years, given his current speed. This included the assumption that he didn't meet with any favorable circumstances. He wasn't even 20 years old yet. In 5 years, he would only be around 24 years old. When he was 30, he might even be close to becoming a titled duo. Furthermore, he wasn't any ordinary soul master. He was a soul master with an ultimate martial soul. A simple example would be last night's fight. If Dai Hao had possessed an ultimate martial soul, he would have been able to inflict significant casualties on the two Soul Engineer legions, given his cultivation, even against their formidable defenses. Furthermore, a titled duo with an ultimate martial soul wouldn't be afraid of the Sun Moon Divine Needle either. Hua Yuao thought of something. Yes. I brought back a Sun Moon Divine Needle yesterday. That Starsky Duo has suffered great losses this time. Not only did I get back the Sun Moon Divine Needle that I gave the White Tiger Duke the last time, but I even got an additional one for free. I indeed have great fate with this Starsky Duo. It was very difficult for Hua Yuao to use a Sun Moon Divine Needle, given his current cultivation. However, he had twin martial souls. His overall soul power was much greater than other soul masters of the same rank. Furthermore, his soul power was also much purer, given his ultimate martial soul. If he unleashed his full strength and risked everything, he might be able to unleash an attack from the Sun Moon Divine Needle once. This was because he still had one more advantage, his immense spiritual power. He didn't have to drain too much of his soul power to accurately aim a Sun Moon Divine Needle. Of course, only a 9-ring titled duo could unleash the true strength of a Sun Moon Divine Needle. He had managed to unleash that strike yesterday because he was fortunate. After sneaking in an attack against the Starsky Duo, he had gained control over a fully charged Sun Moon Divine Needle. His spiritual power wasn't inferior to a titled duo, and thus aiming and firing at that time didn't pose much of a problem. At this moment, Dai Luolai returned. He looked quite frantic. You're back. How's the situation outside? Hua Yuao looked at Dai Luolai. He was already much calmer compared to yesterday after he learned about the invasion and saved the White Tiger Duke. Dai Luolai looked very gloomy as he said, it's bad. They've already calculated the losses that we suffered. More than 70,000 soldiers from the Northwestern Field Army are dead. Among them, more than 50,000 were combat troops. They all died from soul tools. There are also more than 20,000 people who are injured, and 10,000 people missing. I'm afraid that those missing are unlikely to be alive. This means that more than 80,000 of our soldiers were killed after the Sun Moon Empire's surprise attack yesterday. After he finished speaking, Dai Luolai's eyes had already turned red. He punched a wall beside him hard enough to crack it. Hua Yuao also turned gloomy. The Sun Moon Empire was too vicious. They had used Class 9 soul tools against ordinary soldiers. This was very rare in the history of the continent. This time, the Star Luo Empire had finally seen how terrifying soul tools were. Class 9 soul tools were threatening to title duo, but this wasn't absolute. It depended on the title duo's cultivation. However, the destructiveness of a title duo could not compare to that of a Class 9 stationary soul cannon shell. This wasn't to say that title duo couldn't cause mass destruction, but time was required for them to do so. However, Class 9 stationary soul cannon shells didn't need any process. Once they blew apart, they could wipe out a huge amount of lives. They were too scary. What's next? What's the situation now? Hua Yuao suppressed the rage in his heart and tried to stay calm. Dai Luolai painfully said, what else can we do? We've requested help from the capital and the other two empires. At the same time, we've tightened our second line of defense and deployed all our resources there. My father has indeed returned. However, he didn't come to Imperial Radiant City, but went to Dawn City instead, which is 100 kilometers away. That city is about as large as this one. The Northwestern Field Army has also changed their strategy and expanded their area of defense so that the Sun Moon Empire can't use soul tools to break down their defense again. My father has also submitted a script of penitence to His Majesty, expressing his wish to fight to the death in Dawn City. Right now, the orders are that we have to delay the Sun Moon Empire's military with all our might to buy some time for reinforcements to arrive. We can't let them gain any further ground. The Northwestern Field Army has operated here for years. Whether it's in terms of city defense or military strength, this city is better than the interior cities. Once our line of defense here is breached, our enemies will charge forward without any obstacles. I'm afraid they'll be unstoppable. I estimate it'll take half a month for any military reinforcements to arrive. However, a few Soul Master legions have been deployed to assist us. Hua Yuao nodded. This was probably the best that could be done for now. In their current situation, the Sun Moon Empire could still be resisted once the Doling Empire's reinforcements arrived, given the deep foundations of the Star Luo Empire. After all, the Star Luo Empire was the strongest of the 3 native empires on the Duluo continent. The Star Luo Empire also had the greatest number of Soul Masters in the entire continent, including the Sun Moon Empire. There were more than 10,000 Soul Masters in 10 Soul Master legions, a force that couldn't be ignored. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.